In a city of 7 million people, privacy is a myth. In Hong Kong, you live stacked like sardines. You hear your neighbors' arguments through the thin concrete. You smell their dinner cooking in the hallway. You see their lives playing out in the thousands of lit windows that form the skyline. But what happens when you see a routine that shouldn't exist? What happens when the daily rhythm of life continues long after the life itself has gone? This isn't a story about a monster under the bed. It's about something far more unsettling. It's about a set of clothes that never stay dirty, hanging from a window where no one lives. Welcome to the story of the self-washing garments of Mong Kok. Liam, a 20-something English teacher from Chicago, thought he knew what to expect when he moved to Hong Kong. He wanted the grit, the noise, and the neon lights. He found a studio apartment in Mong Kok, one of the most densely populated places on Earth. His apartment was a shoebox, but it had a window. And that window looked directly into the light well of the building complex, a deep square shaft of air surrounded by hundreds of other back windows. It was a canyon of pipes, air conditioning units, and the city's famous bamboo drying racks. For the first month, Liam was just another face in the crowd. He got used to the sound of mahjong tiles clacking at 2 a.m. He got used to the humidity that made the air feel like soup. But then, the insomnia started. Liam began waking up at 4 a.m., unable to drift back to sleep. To pass the time, he would sit by his window, drinking lukewarm water and watching the sun slowly bleach the sky gray. That was when he first noticed Unit 404. It was directly across from him, slightly lower down. While every other window was cluttered with mops, buckets, and drying underwear, the balcony of 404 was strangely empty, except for two things. Hanging on a single bamboo pole were two pieces of clothing. One was a changshan, a traditional male tunic, deep indigo blue with a high collar. The other was a changsham, a women's dress, silk, patterned with pale, faded floral designs. They hung perfectly still. At first, it was just a cultural curiosity. Liam thought it was charming, a nod to the old world in a modern city. But then, he noticed the routine. Every morning at exactly 4:45 a.m., just before the city truly woke up, the bamboo pole would creak. Here is where the documentary element comes in. If you've ever lived in a humid climate, you know one absolute truth. Nothing dries overnight. In Hong Kong's humidity, jeans can take 2 days to dry. Towels stay damp forever. Yet Liam watched this impossible cycle for 3 weeks straight. He would see the clothes hanging there in the evening, sometimes swaying in the thick, polluted breeze. They looked heavy, stiff. But every morning at 4:45 a.m., they were gone. The bamboo pole would be bare for exactly 15 minutes. Then, at 5 a.m. sharp, the pole would slide back out. And there they were, the changshan and the changsam. But they weren't just hung up, they were pristine. Even from his distance, Liam could see they were devoid of wrinkles. They didn't hang heavily like wet clothes do. They fluttered lightly, as if they had been professionally dry cleaned, pressed, and instantly dried in a matter of minutes. One Tuesday, a black rainstorm signal was hoisted. The sky opened up, dumping a deluge of water that flooded the streets. Liam watched from his window, mesmerized. Every neighbor scrambled to pull their laundry in. Poles were retracted with loud screeches of metal on metal. Windows were slammed shut. Every window, except Unit 404. The blue tunic and the floral dress remained out in the torrent. Liam watched the rain lash against them. He expected them to be soaked, to sag under the weight of the water. But the water didn't seem to touch them. It was as if the rain passed through the fabric, or more disturbingly, as if the clothes were projecting a force field that repelled the storm. They remained dry, fluttering gently in a wind that was tearing umbrellas apart on the street below. A chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning ran down Liam's spine. Logic dictates that someone lived there. An eccentric old couple? A tailor obsessed with cleanliness? Liam decided to investigate. He needed a rational explanation before he lost his mind. He went down to the lobby and found the building security guard, a drowsy man in an ill-fitting uniform named Mr. Chan. "Unit 404, Liam asked, using his broken Cantonese and a lot of hand gestures. "Who lives there?" Mr. Chan looked up from his newspaper. His eyes narrowed. The boredom on his face was instantly replaced by a guarded, superstitious look. 404? Mr. Chan shook his head. "No one. Empty." "No, I see clothes," Liam insisted. "Every day. Blue shirt, dress?" Mr. Chan froze. He slowly took off his glasses and placed them on the desk. "Sir," the guard said, his English sudden and surprisingly clear, "that unit has been empty for 6 years, since the fire." He explained that an old couple had lived there, tailors. They were famous in the neighborhood for their hand-washed laundry service. They were obsessive about cleanliness. They died of smoke inhalation when a toaster short-circuited. They were found huddled together on the balcony. "Nobody rents it," Mr. Chan whispered. "Bad feng shui, very bad." Liam went back upstairs, his heart hammering a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Empty for 6 years. That night, he broke out the binoculars. He sat in the dark of his apartment, the lenses focused on the dark rectangle of Unit 404. There were no lights inside, no movement. The curtains were rotted and torn, hanging in tatters. Through the gaps, he could only see darkness, absolute, dusty stillness. But outside, on the pole, the clothes waited. It was 4:40 a.m. Liam had been awake all night, fueled by 3 cans of energy drink and a growing sense of dread. He had to see how they did it. He had to see who or what was moving the pole. 4:43 a.m. The city was silent. 4:44 a.m. A distant siren wailed. 4:45 a.m. Movement. Liam held his breath. He pressed the binoculars to his eyes so hard it hurt. The bamboo pole didn't squeak this time. It slid inward smoothly, silently, as if greased by oil. The clothes vanished into the darkness of the apartment. Liam waited. His hands were shaking. "Go inside," he told himself. "Look inside the room." He adjusted the focus. Inside the shadows of Unit 404, he saw movement, but it wasn't a person. It was the clothes. They were floating. The blue cheongsam was upright, the sleeves filled out as if arms were inside them. The cheongsam hovered beside it. And then the sound reached him across the alleyway. Scrub, scrub, splash. It was the wet, rhythmic sound of hand washing. He watched in horror as the empty blue sleeves dipped themselves into an invisible basin. He saw the fabric wring itself out, twisting with a force that should have required human muscle. The water dripping from them wasn't clear. Through the binoculars, in the pale moonlight, the droplets looked dark, thick, like old blood. They were washing themselves, over and over again, scrubbing away the soot of a fire that happened 6 years ago, trying to get clean. Most people would move. Most people would pack their bags and break the lease. Liam, driven by that fatal American curiosity, decided he needed to get closer. He needed to prove to himself that this was a trick. Mirrors, magnets, anything but ghosts. He took the elevator down to the 4th floor. The hallway was colder than the rest of the building. The fluorescent lights flickered with a buzzing sound that grated on his nerves. He walked down the long, narrow corridor. 401, 402, 403. He stopped at 404. The door was painted a peeling red. There was a traditional bagua mirror hanging above the frame, cracked down the middle. The smell hit him first. It didn't smell like rot or death. It smelled of harsh laundry detergent, the stinging scent of bleach and old floral soap. It was overpowering, burning his nostrils. Liam raised his hand to knock. Slap, slap, slap. The sound of wet fabric hitting stone came from behind the door. He froze. His hand hovered inches from the wood. Creak. The door wasn't locked. It drifted open just an inch. The darkness inside seemed to suck the light out of the hallway. "Hello?" Liam whispered. The slapping sound stopped instantly. Silence. Then a sound that made Liam's blood turn to ice. It was the sound of a zipper being pulled up, slowly. Zip. Followed by the rustle of stiff silk. They were getting dressed. Liam didn't wait. He didn't look inside. The primal part of his brain, the part that kept his ancestors alive in the dark, screamed, "Run!" He sprinted back to the elevator, hammering the button, praying for the doors to close. As the metal doors slid shut, he thought he saw something at the end of the hallway. A splash of blue, a flash of floral silk. Turning the corner. Liam moved out the next day. He lost his deposit, left his furniture, and didn't care. He found a place on Hong Kong Island, expensive and modern, far away from the old tenements of Mong Kok. He tried to tell his friends, but it sounded ridiculous out loud. Haunted laundry? It sounded like a bad joke. So he stopped talking about it. But sometimes old habits die hard. A few months later, Liam was scrolling through social media. He saw a post from a new expat, a young woman who had just moved into a charming, affordable studio in Mong Kok. She had posted a photo of the view from her window. "Love the local vibes," the caption read. Liam zoomed in on the photo. There, across the alleyway, on the 4th floor, the bamboo pole was out, the blue changshan, the floral changsam. They were hanging there, gleaming white in the morning sun, brighter than anything else in the photo. And if you looked really closely, at the edge of the balcony in the picture, you could see a third garment hanging next to them. A modern, Western-style button-down shirt. One that looked exactly like the shirt Liam had left behind in his rush to escape. It was perfectly washed, perfectly folded, and waiting for him to come back.